Rescheduled.
This is Don't Panic, episode number 277, recorded June 8th, 2020. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Don't Panic, the podcast that covers Will Smith's discography from start to finish, determining if it truly is the Willennium. I'm Sean Jennings. Tonight, we're going to be going through his 1998 hit single, Miami, and asking the ultimate question, is it really the city where the heat is on? I'll be joined, as always, by Colby Rabideau and Dan Miller. Gentlemen, good day.
Wait, I feel like I've walked into one of your other shows somehow.
Yeah, this is so I've run out of so in the history of the show I've done like 3 or 4 different opening bits. For a while it was, you know, the blank and blank of technology. I did that for
years.
While.
It was that,
and I ran out. So I think my new bit's going to be a fake show at the beginning of every episode where I'm going to say it's the podcast where, and it's going to be something totally insane.
I could see you and Matt doing an episode on the Will Smith discography.
I pitched a up for debate idea where I wanted to do a bracket where on the left side was Will Smith's songs and on the right was Will Smith's movies, and we determined the best of each, and then they battle each other to determine is Will Smith a better actor or musician. And that was not accepted. So maybe I'll save it for Sean Timber. We'll see. Mark your calendars, it's coming.
It can't come soon enough.
Timber.
Honestly, it can't. If we ever get through Rocky, eventually we'll get there. But anyway, no, we're here to talk about technology and other shenanigans, and we've got some fun stuff going on. What's new, gentlemen?
What's new? I did a bunch of smart home stuff last weekend. I think a couple weekends ago I did the Homebridge thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Homebridge set up with these little RF dongles that send codes to my air conditioners. So that works. It's a little bit. It's one of those things. Colby will know what I'm talking about. Where like you look up like, oh yeah, how do I get this like weird Chinese RF thing to work in Homebridge? And you read, like, you go to the first GitHub repo, and then you realize that one has like 300 forks, and a lot of which are ahead of this one. So then that means, okay, so people have made changes to this. So it was a lot of finding the right fork that actually works. But I can link all these things. I found the one that actually works. This is the Broadlink RM Mini. I didn't pick this previously, did I?
I don't think so. Not to my memory.
Let me make sure I get the name of the thing right. So I got that hooked up to Homebridge, which was relatively easy and straightforward. And I got that working a couple weeks ago. And then Lena asked, hey, could we make it so that if, the temperature is above a certain threshold, that it turns off? And I was like, of course we could. So I ordered temperature sensors. And then she was like, can we also make it so that it turns off like at a certain time at night? I was like, I assume so. So I got these temperature sensors, which I'll also link. IR Home Hub 2, Broadlink RN Mini 3. I don't know which one of those it is, but that's the name of the RF thing. And then we got the Hue. So Hue makes a thing called a motion sensor.
Yeah.
Which also has a temperature sensor in it, but it's not advertised in the package at all. So got all of that stuff. But then I'm in the Home app, and what I wanted to say was, if the temperature is above a certain number of degrees, and the air conditioner is not on, which is very important because otherwise, if you turned it on, it would turn it back off. And it's like during the day, then turn off the air conditioner because we like to keep the air conditioner off at night. But there's no way in the Home app to set these like compound conditions.
Yep.
And was it you, Sean, who recommended this Home Plus app?
Nope.
Oh crap! Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
Because I never found a way. I always ran into that problem too with my smart home stuff. Was as soon as you added a second or third element, it kind of fell apart. So if you have a solution, I'm very excited to hear it.
Yes, I just can't remember. I can't find that.
They all have the most generic names.
Oh, good. Right. I installed this on my iPad. It is called Eve Home. I think Home Plus also came highly recommended, but that costs money. Eve Home is free. And this allows you to do that kind of stuff. So you can make a let's see. Can I actually now I totally forget how this works. Automation. Oh yeah. So these things called rules. I don't know. Can you see that? Probably
Yeah.
not.
No, we can see it.
So you can add a rule, and the rules basically like you set your triggers, your conditions, and your scenes. So a trigger could be like a time of day, or if someone comes home, or a switch turns on. Conditions are all that stuff, and then scenes are HomeKit scenes. So everything has to result in a HomeKit scene, which is kind of annoying. But I was able to do it all. I was even able to do the complicated one where it's like if when the clock strikes midnight and the air conditioner is on and there's no motion in the living room, turn the living room air conditioner off, which is pretty cool. So yeah, all of that stuff works. Actually, it hasn't gotten hot enough to test that automation actually works, but I think it does.
That's cool.
Yeah, so now I feel like I'm living the dream. I could also do things. The sensor I got that is supposed to be a motion sensor, but is also a temperature sensor from the light bulb people.
Yep.
Help me out, Sean. What are those people?
The Philips, the fine folks at Philips.
Hue. The Philips Hue. Yeah. It also has a light sensor, so you can also use it to control things by how bright it is in the room. I don't know what you'd use that for.
Ooh.
Well, that's
like
your automated
you could turn
blinds.
the lights off on when it gets dark.
Aha! Yeah.
Like I have that set up to tap in at sunset, but like depending on the weather outside, that is
or depending on if you have your blinds open or closed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the Home app doesn't. The way it presents the motion sensors is like pretty rudimentary.
It's very bad.
And the Home app doesn't let you trigger on temperature at all. So the thing that I didn't realize about these alternative HomeKit apps is that they will let you trigger on things that HomeKit doesn't, or the Home app doesn't. So even though you can't actually make a rule that operates on temperature or light in the Home app, you can with Eve and with Home Plus and stuff like that. Now, the thing that really blows my mind is that all of these things show up in the Home app. They're all synced into the Home app, even though I made them in a different app, and I don't understand how that's possible. But that's nice because then it's on, if you have people in your household, it's on their phones, it's on all of your other devices.
That's cool.
Yeah, so
I have the Eve app because I think I bought an Eve device one time. But I didn't know it did all that stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty nice for a free app. It's great.
That's cool. Dan, my question for you was this motion sensing temperature reader.
Yeah.
Is it battery powered or does it plug in somehow?
It is battery powered, but it's just powered by a regular AAA battery, I think.
AAA, the small ones.
The small ones, yeah, I know. But from what I read, it lasts for years. So it shouldn't be that bad.
Okay, but, I can live with that.
Now,
I have the Eve thing that I bought was a temperature sensor, but it uses the little like flat disc battery.
Oh yeah.
And it only lasts for like 2 or 3 months. I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking. Cause like I'm not gonna buy disc batteries. They come in 2 packs. It's insane. But maybe I'll give that a try.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm speaking correctly about these.
Yeah, Dan, I think the thing I was just on Hugh's website because I forgot about these motion sensors. I wanted to put one back in my last condo. I wanted to get one for my garage when I pulled the car in. It would trigger stuff, but But I was just reminded that Hugh put out not too long ago the HDMI sync box. I think this is your next thing you got to get, where it syncs your TV up to your lights.
It doesn't sound at all appealing to me, but people seem really into it. Like, sell me on this. I don't get it.
I think it's, first of all, don't look on the site. How much would you pay for the Philips Hue Play HDMI sync box? It syncs the lights with your home theater. How much would you pay for that?
I would pay $100.
So generous.
I know, but these things usually cost a lot.
I am a pretty big home junk spender, and even I was blown away that this thing cost $230.
Oh my god,
that's shocking. No, this honestly, I wouldn't buy this. I think this is too far for a smart. I think this is completely unnecessary. I just think it's funny. Because could you imagine going to someone's house and be like, hey, you want to put on the game? And he puts on, like, the lights all come down and, like, start.
I mean,
it's terrifying.
Kind of cool, but it doesn't, like, when I watch something I really care about, there are two ways I watch TV: with all the lights on, and at which point I'm watching it casually, and often it means that I'm doing something else, or with all the lights off, because I'm trying to, like, really watch it. And so it sounds like this wouldn't. And if all of your lights are off, your room is flooded with the colors of the TV anyways.
Right. I think that's the idea. Is you're enhancing the flooded colors.
But
so it's like you're in the movie.
The colors are all around you.
But that's not what you're looking at. And then during the day, it wouldn't do anything at all. You wouldn't be able to see it at all.
Well, yeah, this only does stuff when you're using your television.
Yeah. Well, even if you were using your television.
Even for video games, it might be cool.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I haven't tried it. Maybe it's amazing.
I don't know if the two of you remember, but way back at the genesis of the Don't Panic show, I had a Kickstarter thing, I think, that I backed that was like that, but for your computer.
Was it only the LEDs you'd, like, strap to the back of the monitor?
Yeah, and I think I took the LEDs out, but there's definitely like sticky residue from that. Like, I'm pulling some off right now. Yeah, yeah, it's still there. It turns out it wasn't that useful. But that was the idea. It was like, oh, you play a game and it's like immersive. It was fine.
Now, see, with that, I could see that being useful for, like, notifications. Like, you have a notification, the whole thing around your monitor is glowing. That'd be cool.
Couldn't you have your lights do that? Like, if I don't know.
I think that's possible, yeah. I forget what I was going to say.
See, I think, Dan, you're ready in your smart home progression to go to the smart lock.
But I live in an apartment.
So?
I don't think we can modify the front door.
What are they going to do, stop you?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know how this works at other apartment buildings, but at our apartment building, like, the front desk has emergency keys. So if we change the lock, the emergency keys would no longer work, which would, I don't know if it's against the terms of living in this building, but it would also mean that we would have one fewer lifeline in case keys are forgotten. I guess that's the point of a smart lock, though, is you can't forget your keys.
Do you have a single knob, or do you have a knob and a deadbolt?
We have a door handle,
yeah,
I guess a knob, and a deadbolt, yeah.
Yeah, so you would so they'd keep a key to the handle, and then you just swap out the deadbolt.
Interesting. But then okay. So the problem is, here's the thing, I think, is that having a doorman in a apartment building in New York City is better than having a smart lock. Because you can tell the door, yes, and you can tell the doorman, like, hey, so and so stopping by, like the repairman stopping by, let them into the thing. And I suspect that would be an easier transaction than screaming at someone over the internet with one of those video doorbell things, or making, like, PIN numbers that people get. And
so we So we got to take a step back here because smart home, I'm over that now. We got to talk about a doorman. I've never lived in a place with a doorman. This fascinates me. As I think most people would know, I am a country bumpkin. And so I know more about cows than I do about doormen. So are you greeted by name as you enter the building? Is that how this works?
You certainly would be capable of doing that. But it's not like fancy in that way.
Wearing a top hat and
no top hats in my building. Although those places certainly like exist. The really fancy places, and you could tell this was especially the case during the virus, which is still ongoing, are the apartment buildings where there's one doorman that's standing outside at all times, and then there's another doorman inside. We do not have that. I suspect they would always greet you by, Mr., Miss, Mrs. So-and-so. All right. Is that so? But do you have more questions?
So they get the door for you. Is that the idea?
Sometimes, no, but
it's
not in our case.
It's in the name.
I think that, yeah. Sometimes they do, depending on who you get, what kind of mood they're in. In my experience,
what's the format of the lobby of your building?
So the format of the lobby of this building is that there's a rotary door. What are those things called?
Revolving door.
Revolving door. Thank you. And to the left is the mailroom, and to the right is a desk. Now with a giant, huge piece of plexiglass in front of it. And behind that desk, typically, is the doorman. Although sometimes the doorman is milling about this like lobby area. There's a couple of couches. I think there's a painting.
Now, what are the types of services you can ask your doorman to do?
So you can they have a computer system where you can let someone in. So you can say this person is visiting from these days to these days, and they're allowed in and out. You can leave stuff with them, and they'll give them to people if they stop by. They will mail packages. So as UPS or USPS comes by, you can leave your stuff with them, and they'll mail it. They'll receive all the packages, obviously, which is the biggest day-to-day importance of the mailman in this day or doorman in this day and age. To be honest, I have yet to really fully explore what doors are open to me with a doorman now, no pun intended, because I've only just started living here, and we're not in normal times. And the last time I had a doorman, I wasn't supposed to be living there, so I tried to make as little use of their services as I could.
Yourself.
I think another interesting thing about living in a fancy-ish apartment building that I didn't realize in my last place, because I definitely didn't take advantage of this, was having a handyman. That's a whole other thing.
A full-time handy guy?
Oh.
Who is kind of like the EMT of shit that can go wrong in your apartment. So can't necessarily fix everything, but is always the first person that you can call to tell you oh yeah, go to the hardware store and get this part, and then call me again, or you should contact a plumber or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's another big benefit.
That was a thing that my last apartment that I lived at, they had. I don't know if you'd call it a handyman, but they had two full-time maintenance people that did all kinds of stuff. They would put up curtains for you and hang your pictures and
oh, that's nice.
Fix things and yeah.
So nice. Here's something that I didn't think about until the virus happened. Doorman are essential services, and I was like, well, why? And then I thought about it, and I was like, it would all break down if they weren't there. The infrastructure is not in place for them to not be there. I'm not sure if the door is locked. There is someone standing in front of it 24 hours a day. Even if the doors could lock, no one has keys. Mm-hmm. So how would you get in? What would be the mail situation? Would UPS just leave it out front, and then everyone would have to go out to the sidewalk every day to get their mail? So it is necessary. I'm not sure if it has to be necessary. I think you could come up with ways in which this would be mitigated. Some sort of one-way huge bin that the UPS could put the packages in, and you could kind of trust that people wouldn't steal stuff from within the building. Everyone could have keys to the front door, hypothetically.
Yeah, I mean, I live in an apartment building where everyone has keys to the front door. Like, that's a solvable problem.
Right, but there's hundreds of people who live in this building, and no one has keys right now. So if they were to say like there will be no more doorman, like
yeah, you'd have to get.
You're all just locked inside. Someone locks the door from the outside. You just stay in there.
Right, or would they only work during the day? And then what happens if someone has to go to the hospital? Yeah.
Now, I knew somebody who grew up in Manhattan who lived in a building that didn't just have a doorman, but also had an elevator operator.
Yes.
Because they had an old-timey elevator.
In my 2 apartments ago, the regular elevator was modern, but the service elevator was operated. But I think the regular elevator was also really old. It must have been one of the first ever automatic elevators. It broke down constantly. Like once a year, it would break for 2 months. And during those times, they had to hire someone who did not normally work at the building, hire someone to sit in those elevators 24 hours a day and ferry people up and down. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was very funny in Houston. You know, obviously more spread out, ton of apartment complexes as far as the eye could see, but they all had like full-time multi-person leasing offices. And every apartment was the same with the leasing office. And they're so funny because you could go and visit a row of them and they'd all be exactly the same. But where I lived, my leasing office was also the operations office for the complex. So you'd have to go in there to like get your packages and stuff, like while like new people were in there, like them telling you, and you would be like listening to what they were saying and be like, actually, that's not true. That pool hasn't been open. You know? Is this like
seeing the tour groups go by?
The campus tours. Yeah, exactly. All the freshman dorms have air conditioning. What? Yeah, still mad about that.
Yeah. The place I lived that had the people who would hang your curtains also had a leasing office just like that with the package room in it. And it was always weird because they were always talking to someone and you go in and like they'd have to get your stuff out of the closet.
Well, I think I told you guys this story, but when I was living in Houston, I went to the Netherlands for I think it was 10 days for a work trip. And during those 10 days, my apartment complex got sold from one giant multinational real estate company to another. And 100% true, I left, came back a week and a half later, and the leasing office had been repainted, all the signage has been changed, and all of the people were new and different. It was the most bizarre, because I'd already lived there for like a year, so I kind of like knew the people who were there, like they were very, and I came in and I'm like, who are you people? What is going, like all the signs were different. They flipped that switch so fast, it was staggering. And I was absolutely shocked. It was like a Twilight Zone. It was very strange. But not uncommon, unfortunately. What else is going on, gentlemen? Anything?
Colby had a story.
Oh, yeah. So, shortly before the show, my mom sent me a text message and said, Dad's laptop isn't working. He has a MacBook of some dubious, I don't know, some years.
Vintage?
Like many years. Yes, it's a vintage MacBook.
What do they call those? The unsupported ones now?
I don't know if it's unsupported. It is aluminum. Like it mostly looks like the current style. But I think it's like a MacBook, but before it, like at least pre-tiny MacBook. Mm-hmm. And so, okay, so here was the problem. It has not been resolved. So I told her that I would ask you guys to see if you had any thoughts on what could be the matter. So I guess it froze. My mom like held down the power button, shut it off, like restarted it. It boots up to like login screen, but then you can't do anything else. And she tried to do like the start it in recovery mode thing, It doesn't do anything. Like, you can't use the mouse, you can't use the keyboard. That's it. It's just the login screen. That's all you can get to, and it seems to be frozen otherwise.
Did you try resetting that PRAM?
I don't know. I didn't tell her to do that.
Mom, reset the PRAM.
This is where you gotta be funny about it and tell her to do ridiculous, like, put it in the freezer overnight. See if that, like, just like the most insane stuff you can think of.
Yeah. Did you all guys ever hear about the people putting their video cards in the oven for their computers?
I do. Is this the loose chip thing from back in the day, or am I thinking of something
Yeah.
else?
Like the solder would get loose, so if you heat it up and melted the solder, it would literally reset itself.
Yeah, the chips would literally pop right off because they weren't attached enough. Yeah. Remember when computer parts were big enough to pop off of other computer parts?
It just wasn't. Everything wasn't one big part.
Mini, nano, micro.
You can still get those.
Good times.
Yeah. So my theory for what's wrong with the computer is that both the trackpad and the keyboard are broken.
Do they have like a USB mouse or keyboard or something they can plug in?
That's what I asked. They don't.
So wait, when they
might
tried
have a
to
keyboard.
When they tried to boot into recovery mode, it didn't boot into recovery mode.
Yeah, that could be that something is wrong. It could also, I remember booting into recovery mode being a little finicky. Like, you got to press the buttons at the right time. I haven't done it in a little bit, but I don't know.
If you hold Command S while booting a Mac, it will boot to the terminal, so that should give you a pretty good indication of whether the keyboard works.
Mm-hmm. Boot to the terminal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm also not there, so it's hard to remote.
We so rarely are.
I know.
Well, that is one of the great things about the remote parent tech support thing is when you can say, "Well, that's all I can do for you."
Right.
I'm all the way over here. I can't do anything. I do that all the time. Where it's like,
know.
My iPad isn't okay. Did you restart it? Okay. Did you turn the Wi-Fi on off? Yep. I'll have to look at it next time I'm there. That's my line.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You guys made me think of a hypothetical question before we do get into our limited tech news. Sort of a thought experiment that I would like your opinion on. Because, Colby, you were talking about old laptops and things like that. Do you guys have any affinity for like legacy laptops? And by that I mean, if in a hypothetical world, if Apple came out and said the new MacBooks, we're going to take the new processors, the new screens, all of the new technology, but we're going to put it in the original iBook, like bright colored clamshell case, would you buy that? Would you fall for the nostalgic throwback technology? Colby's really thinking about it.
I would say absolutely. I can think of several computers that this would work for, but I think for this to really be effective, you'd have to go with some of the unique ones. So I'm thinking like the 12-inch titanium PowerBook. Do you remember that? The little squat, the pre-tiny MacBook, Mm-hmm. It was thick, but it was super cool.
I'm imagining the like multicolored, like bubbly iMac with the puck mouse.
Oh yeah.
Oh god, that mouse.
I do think people have a lot of affinity for the plastic MacBook.
Yeah, the plastic was definitely a classic. I never had one though, so.
Or like if
that was my first MacBook experience.
If they came out with like an original iPhone, but like with the new internals.
No, now
is that too far?
No, you get a lot more people like the 4S.
Oh yeah,
case that was a great case. But to go back to laptops real quick, another one I would definitely get would be the those old Lenovo ThinkPads with the chunky keyboards.
Or the fold-out keyboards. Remember those? Yeah.
Oh my god. the fold-out keyboard. I've seen so many gifs of that. It's so satisfying, but I've never seen one in real life.
Yeah, I think it would be. I'm surprised, or maybe there isn't. I don't know about it, but I wonder if there are like there's any throwback PC like desktop cases you can get. Like when you build your own computer, can you get like an old compact 98? You know, that sort of bland looking beige.
I was just thinking about this because I've been using my desktop computer a lot more since I've been stuck at home for going on 3 months now. And I was reading about the new graphics cards, and I was like, oh, maybe sometime next year I would want to like get a new desktop computer. So I was looking at the cases, and there was a time a couple years ago when the like LED cases had not fully taken over. Like you could get non-LED cases, but now you really can't. And I had that thought. I was like, I would totally get like one of those old HP or Compaq or Dell cases, Gateway. Yeah, E-machines.
Oh, hell yeah.
And just put it like a nice beige box. Like I think one of the beige throwback boxes would be really cool.
That would be fun.
Or do you remember those school computers that would have in the schools that were flat? They call them the pizza box computers. Do you remember these? Instead of it being a tower, it was like a tower that laid down on the desk.
Yeah, I vaguely remember. Yeah.
Living in a New York City apartment, that is also super appealing. It's like, yeah, I could just put my monitor on top of it. That sounds great.
Yeah.
I think there's a market. So this would be like the Super Nintendo Mini, the mini Super Nintendo things. Is that what you're thinking? Like limited release nostalgia thing?
Yeah, I'm surprised there isn't some like boutique PC builder that like does this to order. It reminds me of the people who used to take, and I always wanted to do this and I'm far too lazy, but who would take like the old like color iMac cases and turn them into aquariums.
Oh yeah.
Like I always thought that was a great gimmick, and I'm like, someone should like try and mass produce those. But I think someone should do that with PC builds and just do throwback builds. I think that'd be awesome.
It's definitely possible. Like if you could get your hands on one of those old cases used,
well,
presumably you could put a computer in it.
I found this article of somebody who did it with a 1995 IBM Ativa case.
Nice.
It's got a floppy disk drive, and it looks like $1 million.
Oh, can you link that?
I put it in the Slack for you.
I think I had one of those computers. That sounds familiar. I think that may have been our first computer.
I mean, to be honest, if you can just figure out a way to attach I don't think it would be like that insanely difficult. Maybe I'll do that for my next desktop.
Oh yeah, this looks very familiar, very similar to my old ThinkPad.
Yep.
I guess the downside of the pizza box form factor these days is that you don't use the floppy drive or the CD-ROM drive or anything.
Right.
It's not as convenient.
Although I have a disk drive in my desktop I use once in a while.
I don't.
Once in a while. I almost bought for mine. You know, I was getting all the parts to build mine, and then like in the Newegg recommended stuff, they're like, "Oh, you can get like a floppy disk drive," and I'm like, "Oh, how fun would that be?" And I'm like, "I'd never use it, but would be cool to look at."
You could send people floppy disks, like.
Well, that was one of my favorite. So I actually do have a USB floppy disk reader that I actually do own, and I once was like, I was pulling some old files off some old floppy disks. And I'm like, I don't even remember how much it holds. I tried to put like one MP3 on it, and it didn't even fit. And I'm like, oh shit. Sorry, I forgot these are stupid small.
What did you find on what were you taking off of the floppy disks?
It was mostly old like DOS Windows 95 computer games. I had a number of those on floppy disks, and I was able to play them. At least on Vista. I don't think I tried them on Windows. This would have been Vista era.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah, they played, and I had some old photographs on some.
What?
On some, I knew somebody back in the day who had an old Sony. I love this again technology. It was an early Sony digital camera that used floppy disks. So it was big and rectangular, about this big, and you would literally pop in a whole floppy disk. And so I had one with the original photos on it from that Sony camera.
Oh, nice. My aunt definitely had one of those.
Which
or someone had one of
I can't
those.
imagine. That's like, what, half a megapixel? Like, I can't even imagine what the resolution on those is, but...
Didn't it, like, you could only fit, like, 12 pictures on a disc or something.
It was
like,
not a lot. It was
No.
not a lot. No.
What format were the images in?
I don't... Probably JPEG. I mean, that existed back then. I don't think if I remember correctly, it wasn't anything like weird or exotic or I hadn't heard of before.
Okay, interesting.
Because the pictures worked. I mean, they loaded and I could copy them off the disc.
That would be a fun project. Find the oldest digital artifact that you created.
I have an insane... I might... So, you guys, we've talked about this before. I'm a file hoarder. And I never delete anything. And I have stuff going back to, like, elementary school.
That's crazy.
Which is kind of stupid, and I should just friggin' delete it. And I don't know why I don't.
Yeah, how much space does it take?
Well, that's
5 megabytes?
No, not even, because it's all like, Word files and stuff like that. I mean, it's not any kind of anything particularly sizable. But for some reason, it's like all backed up in my Dropbox, like I'm ever gonna want it ever again. I mean, I have PowerPoints here. Let's see if I can.
Oh, you have it right in front of you.
I have because it's in my Dropbox. I have a PowerPoint from 2004.
Wow.
Called Medieval from middle school, and now presenting. Oh my God, this is fantastic! I gotta see if I can share my screen here on these slides. Oh no, this is the ugliest PowerPoint I've ever seen. All right, let me see if I can figure out a way to share this while we're talking, because it really is. And I know this isn't fun for anyone listening, but
the oldest file that I know I have access to right now is like my first Google Drive files from, I think, 2007. If I recall correctly.
That sounds about right.
I feel like I could probably go pretty far back in my, like, Gmail.
That's true. I forgot about Gmail.
Can you guys see my screen?
Wow, look at that
Medieval
texture.
technologies. Oh, it gets so much worse. Your guide into the world of medieval math and science. Education. Places of education. I don't even remember. But look at some of these backgrounds, man. Oh,
wow.
Grammar. Rhetoric.
Oh, rhetoric.
Logic. Latin. Astronomy. Philosophy. I mean, some of these are just downright unreadable. One important fact. The church made the rules. Remember it.
Now, that's a Sean Jennings slide right there.
I mean, come on. You can't even read it. This is terrible. And you know what's really funny is probably about a year before this, I was the first student to ever use a PowerPoint in a class in my entire school district.
Wow.
Now, I almost hesitate to ask, but what is that little speaker icon beneath all of the slides?
Okay. Thank you, Dan, for noticing that. The story behind that is, of course, if it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. So I thought it would be clever to pre-record my voice saying each slide and then just play it. It did not work on the day of the presentation, so I had to do it real. However, apparently I have the WAV audio files of me saying these things in 2004, which I have no way to play for you now, but I promise when we hang up the call, I will put one in. I'll put a couple of these in Slack. All these little tiny WAV audio files. Oh my God, I was such a dork. I mean, I still am, but I really was back in those days. Gross. Okay, well, we're a bit off topic here. Why don't we see if there's anything in the news here worth talking about, guys?
Oh man, sorry, I'm looking back in my Gmail and I have like college application emails, like random colleges, like, hey, did you forget about us? Incredible.
What could have been,
right? Facebook notifications. So many college emails.
Yeah.
Weird.
While you guys decide what we're going to talk about, I do want to thank Zach Frisson, a longtime fan of the show in the chat, who has said very smart things, but we breezed past them so quickly that I'm not going to repeat them. But you keep talking to that empty void, buddy, and we'll keep listening. We've got some stories in here. Dropbox, Android TV, Facebook. Or none of them, and we can just move on to picks. Always an option. Dan is muted.
Oh, sorry. I was distracted by looking at old files. Reading through the list.
Zach says, I'm pretty impressed that you could even open that in modern PowerPoint. I mean, PowerPoint, I'll give Microsoft credit. Even like Word is like that too. Like the old files usually open pretty well. They do a good job. But again, those were damn simple slides.
Yeah, we need some animations to really...
Oh, I'm sure I have some awful, horrific animated stuff. I used to go hog wild.
I wanted to talk about... I don't really have a story link for this. But this, we don't know anything about the new video game consoles that are coming out, really. Except, we know some stuff that I don't think matters. But we do know that they're both talking a lot about hard drive speeds, which was never something I thought about. Have either of you read into this, these debates on this?
No, I haven't.
No, the thing that the PlayStation claims, and we can't really know for sure, but the thing that they claim to be showing off is that because their hard drives are ridiculously hard, their solid state drives or SSDs are so much ridiculously faster than even the fastest that server grade SSDs, desktop SSDs that you can get, it makes the graphics better because you can just load more data in and out much faster. So you can run, I don't even know how to describe it, fly through a city and the textures are loading high resolution. A lot of these times you're doing one of these things, it kind of makes everything blurry and dumbed down. And also, back to the world of games starting instantly. I was playing around. This was a while ago with an old Super Nintendo thing, and the thing that blew my mind was you put the game in and you flick it on, and you're instantly in the game. You flick the switch. There's no operating system. There's no booting. All of which sucked. Writing games for a Super Nintendo is really hard. So it's exciting to get back to the point where you could flip the thing on and it's just instantly on and you're instantly in the game without having to sit at a loading screen for it. You've got the loading screen these days. You got the loading screen for the console to start. Then you have the loading screen to resume your paused game. Never mind, if you're starting a game from scratch, forget it. Resuming your paused game, you've got the loading screen there. So I am pretty excited about faster storage. It didn't occur to me that would make so many things better.
Yeah, so based on some Googling I did while you were talking, kind of different approaches between the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. The Xbox has partnered with Seagate. They're going to offer 1 terabyte SSD standard, but with a custom 1 terabyte Microsoft expansion card slot. So essentially be like cartridges. You will be able to plug in and out a terabyte at a time. The PS5 starts at 825 gigabyte SSD with sort of a standard SSD slot. But what's interesting is the PlayStation 5, they say, will have a 5.5 gigabyte a second raw throughput, 2.4 gigabyte a second raw on the Xbox Series 10. So just an incredible amount of data moving very quickly but between these. It's not just the speed of the drive, but also the speed of the transfer. Going with those, the 10 or 12 teraflop graphic processors and their
last I checked, the fastest SSD you could get was 800 900 megabits on a laptop or on a desktop. I don't know if that's changed, but
yeah, they're in the PS5's hardware reveal. It was said the load times in Marvel's Spider-Man could go from roughly 15 seconds to roughly 0.8 seconds, with the ability to virtually eliminate load times.
It's going to be nice. Another story, and it's probably, maybe we should save this for next week, but another thing that has been simmering in a lot of like tech nerd circles, like programmer circles, is how you see this with the Super Nintendo, and you see it with old computers too. Like those old computers were fast to do the things that they could do. Like you opened up a Word document and you were just there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't used Word in a long time, but I remember when Word got a splash screen. Word started loading like Photoshop.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and even people have done studies where they like measure how long it takes for you to press a character on a keyboard and have it show up on the screen, like from a Commodore 64 to now. And now it's so much slower, but the computers are on paper so much faster. So maybe these SSDs will come to computers and it will make things that happen slow fast again. And we can all feel like our computers are just as fast as the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those funny... I definitely don't pretend to understand how the internal parts of a computer work. If I did, I would be paid a lot more money. But it is one of those things where does the slowness come down? Because you read... Well, it's got this many cores. It's got this many gigahertz. It's got this many throughputs. It's got this, it's like it's got RAM. It's got SSD. It's got, is it the cables you're using? Is it your motherboard? Is it the controller? Is it there's just the machines are so complex now. There's so many opportunities for you can have the fastest of everything, but like if you have an older eSATA cord, you're not going to get the throughput, even though you got the fastest drive and the fastest processor.
Yeah. But even if you did have all the fastest stuff, it would still be slower.
Well, and then you throw the software on top of it.
Right, which is where all the layers of abstraction come in, and the security. Did you see that story, Sean? I think Colby probably saw it. That programs on your Mac take longer to start now than they used to because every time you start a new program, it goes out to the internet and does like the Apple virus check to see if this is like a known malware thing.
Yep. It's crazy. I swear.
You didn't do that in 1995.
I swear, browsers have gotten a lot. Like the internet has gotten faster, but browsers have gotten slower and chunkier than they used to be. And I don't know if that's a result of web pages trying to do more, or if it's the we didn't used to have multiple tabs running at the same time like we used. It's those sort of extensions and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, web pages do a lot of things. Ads, the internet ads, they're doing a lot of things.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brutal. Alrighty. Well, that was a limited amount of tech news. Why don't we go ahead and move on to picks? The part of the show where we just bring something we want to share with the world. And we've got quite a mix here in the rundown. And I'm going to go first today because I'm at the top of the list here. There are a lot of fun things out there to do this summer. One of them, of course, is grilling. Slapping those big steaks down on the grill, little nice sear. Everyone has their own way of judging how well their meats are cooked, but really there's no better scientific way than checking the temperature. That is how I grill. Otherwise, I would totally screw up constantly. And okay, no, the cat is reaching up and trying to grab the Hue light bulbs. No. If you pull that down, someone will get hurt. But the best way to do it is by temperature. It's foolproof, and there's, FDA recommended temperatures for cooking your food. I've picked up the Thermopop, which is the Wirecutter's recommended grill thermometer. And it's awesome. I use it every single time I grill. I actually loved it so much, I bought my father one for Father's Day. So he can use it when he's grilling, because he has a very crappy thermometer now. They're about $35 each. Not outrageous. They come in a bunch of a bunch of fun colors. I recommend you buy it right from Thermopop because they're kind of spotty getting them on Amazon. But they're great. And honestly, they made a huge, even in your oven or anything you do that's temperature specific with food, it's super easy and light and nice to use. So the Thermopop by ThermoWorks.
What about this is better than other thermometers?
I don't know. The wire cutter set is better. I mean, you can tell that the build quality is very nice. I have used other like super like $10 ones, and I think that the build quality isn't as nice. And it's just nice to hold and look at. It's pretty to look at. No, I don't have a specific reason I should buy this one over any other thermometer.
I bought the old wire cutter pick, and now I'm worried I'm missing out.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is a lot of people do the where you stick in the probe and you leave it in the food. And I don't love and those are usually a little more expensive. Some people really like those because it's kind of set it and forget it. And they even have those with Bluetooth and stuff, and they buzz your phone. And honestly, I think for $35, you get a good value with this, and you just pop it in, you check it. You don't have to leave it in there. It's not like you're not going to wildly overcook it or undercook it. You're going to just be close and be like, it needs another couple minutes. So I think this will work fine for most people. Alrighty, Dan, what do you got? I'm just fascinated by what you're picking here.
So I'm picking an app called Tavour, Tavour.
Tavour?
Tavour. Tavour.
Tavour. I like that.
And this app is a little difficult to describe. It's like a beer of the month club, except you don't get a beer a month. Twice a day, you get a push notification that shows you a beer, and if you want, you can add it to your box, and then you get a box every 6 weeks of all the beers that you selected during those 6 weeks. They have nice little blurbs that describe them and link to all the review sites and everything. But the advantage for me is I don't have to go outside, but B, they have a lot of beers from other parts of the United States. I haven't seen them from other parts of the world. But like I haven't seen a single beer on there from the Northeast. So it's also like a bunch of stuff that I can't get, or in every case, stuff I haven't heard of. So I haven't gotten my shipment yet, but it's been a fun way to spend $7 a day sometimes, which I'm sure, after 6 weeks, we'll see what that looks like.
Cool.
That's cool. What does I can't find anywhere what this costs.
Oh, so you just pay for the beer?
Oh, so it'll vary based on what beer you get.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So like sometimes they have the big bottles; those are like $20, but sometimes they just have the little cans; and those are like $6.
I think
and you can get as many as you want. So you could get 12 of one if you find one that you really like.
It's an interesting model. I like the idea of the notifications and you sort of just add over time versus they sort of pick for you.
Yeah, you get control over it. Gives you a little something to look forward to twice a day.
Damn. And I think I did a wine of the month club for a little while, and I just was buried and I couldn't drink it fast enough. So I think 6 weeks is probably a good amount of.
Yeah. Plus, awesome. if you find yourself buried, you can just stop adding stuff to your box.
Right. Oh, this is great. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try this. Tavour. 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 Check it out on the App Store. Sweet. Alrighty. Colby, take us home.
Okay. I watched this TV show called Devs. I'm not going to say that I liked it. I truly don't know.
You just seem more confused than anything else.
Yeah, there were times when I think I liked it, but it was interesting, and it was only 8 episodes. It was a little like sci-fi-y computer stuff, so it was kind of cool. I heard about this from the people who do the Westworld podcast. One of them was really jeeped up about it. I think it's okay. But, like, I don't know. It's worth a watch. Since we're stuck inside, I'd be interested to hear what the two of you think of it.
What is it on?
It's on Hulu. Available on Hulu.
Yeah, the TV critics I follow and keep an eye on have all been extremely positive about it, from what I've seen.
Yeah. Nick Offerman is in it. Ron Swanson. He's sort of a bad guy. I don't know. I didn't like the beginning, the first couple episodes, and then like it got better, and I sort of don't like the way that it ended. I don't think,
Okay.
but I don't know. It was kind of good. There were some pretty interesting episodes in there. Worth a watch.
Okay.
I added it to the list.
Yeah.
Very cool, devs. Check it out on the FX channel if you have cable, or on Hulu. Did I tell you guys, I in a move that's completely unsurprising, it ended up blowing up in my face. I wanted to, so I have Hulu without ads, and I have Disney Plus, and they offer a bundle now where you can do Hulu, Disney Plus, and ESPN Plus, and it's a little bit cheaper than doing them separate. So I said, oh, I'll just convert my bundle to that. Unsurprisingly, did not work because those services are not properly integrated yet. And so now I think I'm actually paying for Hulu twice, but I do have Disney Plus and ESPN Plus. So
Nice. So it's costing you more, is what you're
honestly,
saying.
it is, because what happened is I went to Hulu because Hulu was advertising it. So I go to the Hulu website. They said, "Oh, upgrade to a bundle." I go, "Great." I hit upgrade. They go, "You can't. You're already a Disney Plus subscriber. You have to do it through Disney Plus." So I go to Disney Plus. I go to do the upgrade. It says, "Oh, authorize with your Hulu account." Won't let me do that. So I both have a Hulu account and a bundle through Disney Plus, and I cannot get them to, even though I use the same email, they haven't quite figured out it's the same. So, what a treat. Real tough problem I'm having. Okay. Well, that wraps us up here. That's the end of the program, guys, unless you got anything else.
Nope.
Okay. Hey, look, that's plenty. I think we've talked enough. That wraps up here. Of course, don'tpanic.io is our website. Go there. We'll have links to all the picks. If you can't spell Tevior, we'll have the link there on the website, along with all the episodes. Of course, you can subscribe wherever you get podcasts: Overcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the great spots, YouTube as well for the video version. And, of course, follow us at Don't Panic Show on Twitter, and email us don'tpanicshow@gmail.com. Or leave us a voicemail for the phone number I, 3 years later, am still paying for because I cannot figure out how to cancel paying Skype. That phone number is 508-644-TECH. That's 508-644-8324. Leave a voicemail. We'll play it on the show. Okay, guys. Well, that's going to do it here. We're going to be back next week with some more tech news. Look forward, because we're only, I think, about 2 weeks away from WWDC, so we'll at least have some. It's virtual this year, but there'll definitely a lot of big rumors about iOS 14, or 15. Which one are we on? 14. I think it's 14.
And next week is supposedly, barring further societal collapse, is supposedly the PlayStation event also.
Yes.
So we'll have that to talk about.
A lot of exciting stuff. So it's always a jam-packed June here on the show as we approach our somethingth year anniversary. Because we started in June, so I think 8. I think it's an 8 year, but I'm going to double check that. So it's a hell of a month. You're not going to want to miss it. On behalf of Colby and Dan, I'm Sean. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time for another Don't Panic.